organisation called Household. And our organisation looks at strategies for developing high quality public art in local neighbourhoods in development with communities. We put together a festival of contemporary art in houses, alleyways, parks, libraries and the pubs in the area that we all lived in at the time, which was the Ormeau Road area. After running the festival for 2 years and expanding into over 80 local sites, we decided to stop the festival but to continue to work around the themes that really excited us and that kind of emerged out of the festivals. So things like issues around public and private space and ownership, neighbourhood agency, activation of non-art spaces, hospitality, and artists working really closely with local communities. So since then, we have developed our organisation into one that combines research and practice to identify questions around the obstacles and gaps to art production in the city. And we wanted to open up how and why artwork in the public realm is created and who it's for, who it's made with, and how it's commissioned. So in our programming, we are interested in telling untold stories, asking unspoken questions, and revealing hidden narratives, and we often work in unexpected spaces. This is a work that we made at Cliftonville Stadium, Solitude Stadium, with Mitch Conlon and a group of football fans. In 2017, we were granted a 3-year Paul Hamlin Award to trial out our methodology in the Sailortown area of the city, and over the 3 years we worked with residents, ex-residents, artists, architects, including Augustina, students to create a series of public artworks that responded to the place. We held community days, workshops, tours, live music, exhibitions. Oh, don't know where that image is. Hopefully that's it. Bringing a lot of exhibitions, bringing contemporary artists to working with the people of Sailortown. We supported an artist called Saul Archer to produce a really beautiful film with the residents of Sailortown and the ex-residents over 3 years, which is going to be shown at the Docks Fest on the 3rd of July in Belfast. And it was just recently bought by the Arts Council's collection and was shown at Golden Thread Gallery. We produced a digital choir and an audio walking tour of the area that was fully embedded in the people and the place. So this is just a bit of the context of kind of what we're talking about here when we talk about public art. So the stakes are really, the stakes at risk in making and commissioning public art are really high because of its public nature. So it's like architecture, you know, if you make something bad, it's there for a very long time at a very large cost, both in terms of the people who live around it and who see it every day and engage with it, and in terms of the actual financial cost as well. And that's why on Stephen Nolan, public art gets such a terrible rap, because you have things like this that happen, which means nothing to anybody and antagonises everyone as well. So we are, as our organisation has moved, I suppose, into increasingly towards public art production, we have developed a set of best practice principles based on the past 10 years of research and experience of working with artists and communities in our beloved city of Belfast. So these are some of our principles here, and it finishes up on their adequate resources, time and funding. So we just find it absolutely incredible that in this day and age, really, the tenders come out for public art, and you know, it's just kind of there's no kind of time, there's no research time to develop or like really look at an area, to really look at the locality, and to provide artists with that space to kind of to work there and to know it. It's just something drops into an area, and it often doesn't really mean that much to the area and its people. So today I'm going to talk about our new programme, which is called Artists in Neighbourhoods. It invites local contemporary artists to upscale and expand their practice into the public realm. We recognise that current commissioning processes often exclude the wealth of excellent contemporary artists who live and work here due to closed or very prescriptive briefs, often kind of wanting this kind of corporate embellishment of a site, or something that commemorates something but in a way that doesn't mean, is kind of very neutral to the point where it sort of fades into the background. And and also through the expectation of the applicant having a very specific skill set or needing the services of a design, engineering or logistics team in order to deliver a large-scale public artwork. So with Artists in Neighbourhoods, Household is in the process of upscaling our own organisation to support contemporary local artists design and deliver ambitious work that meaningfully responds to people and place. So we've been working with 4 artists over the last 6 months to develop proposals for neighbourhoods in the city, which we will then use as case studies for realising these types of projects and testing out our methods of working in Belfast. We aim that these case studies and the research around the work will inform public art policy in Northern Ireland. So with Artists in Neighbourhood, we offered a very open brief to our selected artists, but with an emphasis placed on an initial 6 months research and development period to ensure workable, robust, realistic proposals that are grounded in research, consultation with communities and stakeholders, and they mitigate risks by producing a comprehensive project plan with research, workable site, list of stakeholders, budget, timetable and technical specifications. So we want to open up what public art can be in Belfast and produce work that is ambitious and bold, internationally acclaimed, but absolutely rooted in the local environment. And nobody knows this context better than the artists who actually live and work here. So just to very briefly then, to kind of go through some of the proposals that were created in that past 6 month period. This is a work by Jan McCullough. Jan McCullough has a long-standing interest in the human act of construction, fabrication and DIY. She's interested in the untold acts and histories around labour, care and maintenance, fabrication, DIY and the communities that form around them. So Jan focuses on the forms associated with the pragmatic gestures of work and working environments and the inventive ways that people solve problems using mundane objects and structures. I'm just going to show you some of her research images here. Jan's starting point then for this new work, which is going to be presented with Household, is the Ulster Museum's Hog and Welsh Archive collection, which was a series of photographs commissioned in the 1930s that document the machines and wares produced in Belfast at that time. So up to now, that archive has mostly been in the realm of the researcher and archivist, but Jan wants to isolate and then represent some of these images from this archive back into public space. I'll just show you there. So this, yeah. So she'll do this kind of, she'll be bringing those images back into the sites of their original locations that they were made, and that'll be through billboards, gable end walls, in order to tell this new story of Belfast's material history. So over the next year, we're going to present a series of these works around the city, and that will launch in November as part of the Belfast International Arts Festival, and that'll be the first series of those images will be around Queens, and they'll be working then with, they'll be using this archive, but we'll be developing projects alongside that, the presentation of the artwork with communities of students and also the people who work and live around that Queens area. Okay, and then Michael Hanna is another artist that we've been working with. And Michael is an artist who is interested in human behaviour and psychology and often interrogates the notion of error and failure in his practice. So his most recent works have centred around calculated error of a very personal nature. And this project, Pi Wrong for Belfast, Michael has started with the idea of pi, a mathematical equation of the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter. So pi obviously has this very rich history of calculation mistakes and approximations going back to the beginnings of civilization, the Egyptians and the Babylonians. And it has evolved and changed with the most recent calculation of pi sitting at around 62.8 trillion digits, I think was the last one, on last August. So the idea of pi exists in dialogue with the current pieces of public art that are in Belfast, with almost all featuring circles and spheres prominently. And for Michael's work, he wants to create a large-scale sculpture of the first 9 digits of pi, but with 1 digit wrong. So this will be an error on a massive stage proposed for a rooftop site to be seen across the city of Belfast. So we can read it as a connection to the notion of a circle, of a fundamental form of sculpture and design, the notion of error and failure, and also the role it plays in learning and development, this idea of failure, like feel again, feel better. But also Michael was interested in this work as a kind of reflection of the kind of personality of the people from Belfast. It's got a certain contrariness, and it's kind of a big mistake that you can be proud of, kind of a joke that everyone's in on. So to this end, we felt that the work should be big, bold and unapologetic, and so we're looking at the moment to securing a rooftop for the work to be positioned really prominently. Sorry, yes. And then the final work then, Brian and Bree, they are looking at a temporary floating structure in the Waterworks Park in North Belfast. So as people walk around the lake, the structure will be it cuts a kind of a smooth black ellipse through the surface of the water, and at one point in the circuit the viewer can step down to a jetty where they can see this perfect circle punching a black hole through the plane of the landscape. But as you walk around the lake, the piece actually changes and evolves. So the project is rooted in the idea that like what we're looking at is kind of always like, you know, it's never quite as it seems. The title of the work will be printed in Braille and fixed to the railings overlooking the site at the Waterworks Park, and the text is untranslatable to the majority of the people who observe the project on the lake, while the majority of those can interpret the text, cannot see the object. So there's scope for this project to host a series of events drawing out themes in the work, and I'll leave it at that. And we're going to wrap up. Okay, thank you very much.